Jon Setzer TV, and as you already know, it's story time. It is time to hear some stories from none other than myself about my life and my experiences. And so I hope that these stories are both entertaining as well as motivational. And so I want to share with you guys a little bit about just my story, my personal story, and how I came to know Jesus Christ. And now, I know some of you guys are like, oh, I don't do the whole Jesus thing. You're probably getting ready to tune out, but just listen. Just listen for a moment. And so, growing up in Lenore, North Carolina, I was a pretty good athlete. At that time, I was a pretty good athlete. I ended up becoming a better athlete later on with hard work and determination. But at that time, I was a pretty good athlete. Played a ton of different sports. I mean, the sport, you name it, I probably played it. And I just remember, doing really well in school. I've always been, pretty much almost a straight A student, A's and B's, that kind of deal. And I just remember feeling like that my accomplishments, feeling like my achievements were not enough. I remember going to church every Sunday with my mom and my family, my dad, and really not having a relationship with Jesus Christ, not really knowing who Jesus was, and kind of just going through the motions, I guess you can say. And so I remember playing one of my best football games. I was in high school. I had 3 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, 300 yards all purpose. I think it was 3 touchdowns that game. And, set a state record, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was like a great game. If anything great could happen to me that night, it did. And so I remember after the interviews with, like WBTV and some of the other news stations and the local newspaper and some radio stations and that kind of stuff. And I just remember walking off of that field thinking about every way that I could kill myself. And I know that's a little bit deep, and I got deep pretty quick on that, but I want to be open, honest, and transparent with you guys because I really feel like that my story could help somebody else. And I walked off the field, and I just remember thinking that, okay, I've always told myself that if I catch at least 3 interceptions in one game, like that's the pinnacle. That is the top. Like that is the top of the mountain. And I remember doing it, and adding so much more to that. But what it really showed me was that there was a hole on the inside of me that accomplishments couldn't fill. Straight A's couldn't fill it. Girls couldn't fill it. Being honest, another moment of transparency, I started having sex at a very early age. And it's not something that I'm proud of. And I'm constantly trying to show my own kids that you're not going to find what you're looking for from another woman, or you're not going to find what you're looking for from a man. Like the only thing that can fill that hole on the inside of your heart is your relationship with Jesus Christ. And I remember going home that night and just thinking about every way that I could kill myself because every accomplishment, every interception, every fumble recovery, every tackle, every touchdown was just a shovel full of dirt into the abyss. It was like trying to fill a sinkhole with dirt. Just shovelfuls of dirt. And it just wasn't happening. And I remember going home and sitting on my bed. And I consider that to be the first and the last day of my life, because that day on my bed, the old me died, I guess you can say. And a new me was born. And I remember just crying out to God, and I was praying because I was like, okay, well, am I going to take a bunch of pills to take my life? Am I going to go in the other room and get the gun and take my own life? Am I going to hang myself in my closet? And I just remember saying, God, if you're real, now is a great time because this is my last day. And I just remember, I don't know if I was in or out of sleep, but I just remember focusing up into the corner of my room, and I seen this small, tiny light. And the more that I focused on it, it was almost like this light got bigger and bigger and bigger until it pushed this darkness or this heaviness that I was feeling out of my heart, out of my mind, and out of my life. And I'm like, God, is that you? Now, for the sake of the story, You guys are probably wanting me to say, oh yes, I heard this audible voice from the Lord, but to be honest, I didn't. It was just something that was being confirmed, like this warm presence, this confirming feeling on the inside of me. And from that moment, I knew that that was God. I knew that God loved me, and I knew that God had a plan for my life. And that was the only thing that I could go off of. Now, did my life drastically get better after that day? No, it didn't. I think some parts of it got worse. But the thing that changed that day was my perspective, my perception, the way that I viewed the world around me. That changed that day. And once that changed, once the way that I viewed my world changed, I knew that I had hope and that my life would follow if I kept my focus on the right things. And so, guys, thank you so much for listening to a piece of my story. And there'll be so much more to come. So make sure that you guys are tuning in to Jon Setzer TV. I love y'all. Peace.